And welcome back to Jeff Koinange Live here at Citizen Television. What a way to come back with live guests. When Dr. PLO Lumumba and Barrack Muluka show up, you know it's going to be a cracker of a show. By the way, JKLive is powered by Visa, folks. That's right. In these tough economic times brought about by the pandemic, that's COVID, small businesses need the support they can to get back on their feet. Now, Visa, through the Where You Shop Matters campaign initiative, is offering small businesses the tools and resources required for their businesses to grow and thrive by providing access to accept Visa payments. Now, the first 100 small businesses to register for Visa payments on the Visa Small Businesses Hub will get 20,000 shillings worth of digital advertising. That's right. And there's more. Merchants who register and select PesaPal will get 1, a free MPOS machine to accept card payments, 2, free tools and plugins to accept online payments. To register, go straight to www.visa.co.ke. Again, www.visa.co.ke. Before we take a break, Barrack Muluka was defending his very polite tag that Professor PLO Lumumba gave him. He called you something that I forgot in Swahili.
Could you repeat it?
Kinukamito.
Kinuka.
So,
is it not my turn to be?
Yes, it's your turn. It's your turn. You asked him to repeat the term.
Let him be of good comportment.
Okay.
I didn't ask him to explain.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you see, my good friend PLO, and he's my friend of very long standing, and even after here, he's going to be my friend. And when he becomes president, I will also serve him in the same capacity as I have served the other people that he talks about. The problem with people like my good brother, PLO, is that they are ndumakuwili. Huyo ni ndumakuwili. Tumeketi na yeye na Musalia Mudavadi, he has advised him. Tumeketi na yeye na Kalonzo Musyoka, he has advised him. He has advised Evans Kideru, he has advised Sonko. Mimi nikinuka whatever.
Yeah.
Yeye nikinuka hicho kitu na vile ndumakuwili. Kwa hivyo leo watazamaji wanakinuka mito na ndumakuwili.
Let's look at it from this perspective.
Hold on. Let's move on.
No, let's move on.
Prof, yeah.
But let's do this. I do not belong to any political party. And what I do is in the public domain.
And so is mine.
What I don't do is to, I've never advised any of those fellows that he's talking about. It is now in the public domain that my good friend Barrack Muluka was publicly in a political formation called NASA. And he was with Honorable Mzee Raila Odinga. It is in the public domain that he was an advisor to Kalonzo Musyoka. It is in the public domain that he was with Musalia Mudavadi as a Secretary General. He is now in the public domain that he is saying that he is the communications expert for William Samoei Ruto. And he's entitled to all those.
Right.
I've never, and Kenyans will attest to that, I've never been, and in my position, I take positions of principle which are informed by my professionalism. But we don't want to get into that.
No.
We want to get into the merits of the issue,
Absolutely.
which is what is the position. Kenyans will judge, and Kenyans have the means of judging.
Yeah.
But I must say that I'm struggling because I've read Barrack over a long time, and he is a man I respect. But when I see a friend of mine under any guise taking the position that I've been taken, then I struggle.
Okay, let's switch gears. Now we know where you stand. We know where you stand, Barrack.
We cannot.
We know where you stand.
Let's move forward.
Let's move forward.
In fact, we will not move forward.
Yes.
It's not over until the fat girl has sung.
Has she started warming up?
She must sing.
Jeff, can we get into the crux of the matter?
Let's get to the crux. Let's get to the crux. We know where you stand. We know now you're in the WSR camp with Jubilee.
No, I've not come here to undergo verbal assault and character assassination.
No one's assassinating anybody.
And to keep quiet.
We are merely confirming.
And it doesn't matter.
There is pictorial evidence.
It doesn't matter. But I must speak to it.
Yeah.
But we finished it. You said you've been approached.
We
you can't say no.
Yeah.
Jeff, we will not move.
So what do you have to say then?
I must be allowed to speak. Natural justice.
So speak.
Yeah, this man is a lawyer.
Speak.
Or this man says he's a lawyer.
No.
As he says,
leave this man.
He says, I say that I'm a communications expert.
Yeah.
He says he's a lawyer. As a lawyer, he must protect my rights and freedoms to make any choices that I so desire.
But you made a choice.
And I've made a choice.
And we respect
and those who want to struggle, let them continue struggling.
Okay.
It is their monkey. Yeah? Good. Let them continue struggling.
You know what they say? Okay. Nyani, Hayoni,
Kundule. The difference between me and PLO is that I do my stuff in the open.
Yeah.
He does his stuff surreptitiously.
Okay. All right. God. How do we segue? All right. How do we segue? Professor, let's go to you.
Segue into
Moranga this past weekend. 2 years to the elections. And you saw the madness in Moranga. Kobil on the side, on the main road. 2 young people killed. Prof, come on, man. Come on.
You know, Jeff, first of all, it's very unfortunate that at a time when no office has been declared vacant, there is no vacancy in the office of the President of the Republic of Kenya. The elections are 2 years away. And yet, there are campaigns under different guises, whether it is attending a church or addressing a kamukunji, campaigns are going on in earnest. And young people die, and what you see are what I describe as matter-of-factly responses, as if you are swatting a fly. We are preparing this country for a fall into the abyss. And my desire is that investigations are undertaken by the Inspector General of Police and that the individuals who are the perpetrators of these dastardly acts are dealt with firmly and in accordance with the law. You know, in 2007, we stared at the abyss. And courtesy of international intervention, we retreated. But I see the drums of war being beaten as if somebody has told us that Kenya is immune. Kenya is not immune. It is incumbent upon us as Kenyans to guard ourselves against the populism and almost fascistic tendencies of our political class. If you read history, this is how Hitlerite and Mussolini movements started. I fear for this country if we continue on this trajectory. But I hope that it will be arrested. I hope that President Kenyatta, having come from France, will put his foot on the pedal and put a stop to this nonsense so that history may never record that during his presidency he allowed this dastardly calumny to obtain.
Barrack, your thoughts about what happened this past weekend in Moranga? Well done. Well put, PLO. Well done.
Yes, I agree entirely that there is need to arrest this trend. It's also true that this is not the first time that it is happening. We have seen this before. We have been in that space before. And if we must speak with candor, it starts with a limitation of political freedoms, political conversations. What is the business of the politician? The politician is not working in a pork rolling factory. The politician is not a manufacturer of food or a manufacturer of blankets. Politicians are all the time in the business of politicking, in the business of campaigns, regardless of the guises that those campaigns take. That in fact, when they make their inaugural pronouncements after being sworn in, the campaign begins. When they begin their programs where they are delivering what they have been promising during the ended campaigns, the campaign for the next season begins. The difference here is the style in which we do it. And we have seen that we are getting back to the era of the zoning of the country. If in 2013-2014, President Uhuru Kenyatta and DP William Ruto went on the campaign trail, they began as early as 2013 to talk about Yangu Kumi, Ya Ruto Kumi. What is the difference today? I think we must also speak to ourselves with candor. And what we are seeing is balkanization and zoning of the country and declaring certain spaces to be no-go zones for certain kinds of persons, that we are afraid of a paradigm shift from a conversation on the slough of despond that is negative ethnicity, the balkanization of the country into ethnic political colleges, and that you must therefore wait until you are permitted to get into that space, because this is unprovoked state terrorism by any other name. How do you stop somebody who wants to access a place of worship? And I've seen Raila Odinga in Kawangware on a campaign trail saying that there should be no campaigns when he's actually campaigning. We have seen that the instruments of national security, which under Article 239 of the Constitution of Kenya are advised, not even advised, they are called upon to ensure that they do not take partisan positions in political affairs. We have seen during this COVID season that some people hold meetings, they are tear-gassed. Others hold similar meetings, they are not tear-gassed. So the state itself is compromised, and I agree that President Kenyatta must arrest this, but he must start it by looking inward.
Okay. I think you've drank too much of the Kool-Aid, Barrack, because I'm looking at you and I'm saying, how were you convinced? You were a different guy just a few months ago.
This thing is not about me. If you make this thing about me, you are personalizing it. This is ad hominem. Attack the idea. Interrogate the idea. Ask whether it is true or not. Is it true that when Oparanya, Eugene Wamalwa, and co. go to Kakamega, to Bungoma, on campaign missions, and they say what you are seeing is the government of the future, and they go to Francis Atwoli's home and they say the same, nobody tear gasses them. But when Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, Bernard Washiali, Injendi Malulu have similar missions, they are tear gassed. Is it fact or fiction? And what does that have to do with me?
Okay. So, do you actually believe what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me ask you this. Hold on.
Have you witnessed this? Have you witnessed that?
Let me ask you this, Barrack. So the wheelbarrows, and I'll get to you in a moment, Prof. The wheelbarrow thing, does that really work? Who is that empowering really?
It may work or it may not work. That is not the issue. The issue is that someone is shifting the paradigm of the conversation. The conversation in this country has been about Kikuyu against Luo. It has been about Kikuyu fighting with the Kalenjin and people being taken to the Hague. And someone is saying, let us have a national conversation on poverty. And someone else is saying that the poor should be poor quietly. And that when you try to demonstrate in the minutest manner that you could intervene. Yes, the wheelbarrow does make a change to somebody who has been carrying his wares on the back. The mukokoteni does make a difference to that kind of individual. It may not be on a wide scale. But what is the other person doing? apart from talking.
Prof, help me out here.
I will not quarrel with wheelbarrows. I will not quarrel with the largesse that is being distributed, but I'll quarrel with a number of things. I'll quarrel with an administration which stood before Kenyans as Siamese twins of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and William Samoei Ruto, and made certain promises, including the following: that during our administration we shall de-ethnicize our country, they said. We shall create so many jobs, they said. We shall ensure that Kenya is cohesive, they said. We shall ensure that all these things are institutionalized. But 3 years after they have been elected into their second terms, it would appear that this was a marriage of convenience where the spouses sleep on the same bed, with one spouse dreaming different dreams and the other one dreaming different dreams. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta dreams about agenda that includes the Big Four. William Samoei Ruto dreams about the State House. And Kenyans are now left wondering what happened. What happened that in the 21st century, when other people are talking about innovation and invention and nanotechnology, we are talking about wheelbarrows which were used by Adam and Eve. That is my struggle, because this evening I'm in the business of struggling.
That's a good point. In the bed, let's come back to that bed, because there was a third party that entered the bedroom with a handshake and hasn't left the bedroom since. So one spouse has to be not so happy.
Jilted lover?
Sort of.
Yes, I think that is an analogy and an image that I'm willing to relate to, that there is indeed this extramarital affair in the affairs of state, and that someone has gone and sworn himself in as the people's president. And a few days later, we have seen the two of them in a tango that is called a handshake. And the handshake scuttles everything that is in the bedroom of state. And so the newly arrived lover, who is actually called now the people's president, is admitted into the affairs of the bedroom as the legitimate co-equal. We have seen him speaking on behalf of the state. We have seen him defending the state against allegations of corruption. We have seen him announcing that very soon we are going to get a report, the report of the BBI, when you would have thought that it was the president who was going to do so. When the president did allow the lover to get into the bedroom of state, he ought to have perhaps reflected a little more on what the French people call mariage à trois, where you bring a third partner, ménage, I think it's
Ménage à trois. Je comprends, mais écoute, sorry, excuse me, one moment.
À trois.
Ménage à trois. But excuse me one moment. What you're trying to say is, you feel jilted, don't you?
I don't feel...
You feel disrespected.
But Jeff, when you feel jilted, you do not cut your nose to spite your face.
I don't feel jilted. You didn't ask PLO that question. We will be going back to him if he will be of good comportment.
And I am usually of good comportment.
It would be good for everyone.
Yes.
I think there are things which are stated clearly in the Constitution. And if we start trivializing important conversations such as this one, we lose sight of very important things.
Okay,
because
just answer the question, Barrack. Just answer a simple question.
May I be heard, Mr. Chairman? Because we are talking about an extra-legal way of conducting the affairs of state. And we senior thinkers in this country, because we must flatter ourselves with the thought that we are senior thinkers, we lose sight of the important things. There is an extra-constitutional management of affairs of state in this country. It doesn't matter whether it is William Ruto or a future president and deputy president, that we have got under Article 240 of the Constitution of Kenya, the National Security Council, which has not been able to sit. And it has not been able to sit because the president and his deputy cannot sit together. These are issues that must concern us. They have nothing to do with
my question, Barrack,
being jilted.
You feel disrespected.
I don't feel disrespected.
Not you.
We don't feel
the
disrespected.
People you work for now.
The issue is this: do we have an extra constitutional situation that Kenyans should be worrying about?
Let's ask the lawyer. Let's ask the lawyer.
Let us look at what I have. There is an administration. That administration is the administration of the Jubilee government. There is internal disharmony within that arrangement. But when you look at government, you don't look at it from the executive arm. There is a National Assembly, there is the Senate, which jointly constitute parliament. If there is a difficulty between the president and the deputy president, and it's true that Mzee Raila Odinga was admitted into this administration by way of a rapprochement. And the reason, as I understood it then, was to pacify the country. And I am surprised myself, because I'm not in the inner sanctums of power. But I would want to imagine that when President Kenyatta convenes a cabinet, his deputy president is present in that cabinet, and that issues are then dealt with in accordance with the Constitution. And that if there are any problems, those problems ought to be dealt with in a manner that is known to the Constitution. And remember that whether there is government or opposition, we all belong to one country called Kenya. And that Kenya must be administered for the benefit of the people of Kenya. When President Kenyatta is declared the President of the Republic of Kenya, he is the President of those who voted for him and those who did not vote for him. And it is incumbent upon him, if he is of the considered view that his deputy president is out of order. And I think, I'm asking President Kenyatta and those who are his acolytes to tell him to demand of his deputy to be in order. Because it surprises me as an observer that when I listen on a daily basis to the deputy president, he is speaking as if he is in opposition of the government in which he is the deputy president. And that surprises me. And when, as he rightly say, when I listen to Raila Amolo Odinga, Mzee Raila Amolo Odinga, he no longer speaks as if he is in opposition, but as if he is in the inner sanctums of power. And this in itself is a testament to the confusion in administration of Kenya. That in truth, Jeff, it would appear that none of those in the political class now ever wants to be in opposition. Any one of them. They want to be in government. It's because of the largesse that it promises to them.
It's very Shakespearean, isn't it?
And the privileges that it accords them. But let me conclude by saying this. I think that the President of the Republic of Kenya is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta must now draw the line in the sand and demand of his deputy and tell his deputy, this is my government. We had a joint ticket. My term is 2 years shy of its completion. My office has not been declared vacant. No political party has allowed any person to campaign for the office of the president. The IEBC has not declared the office of the president to be vacant. Let us administer this country for the benefit of the people of Kenya until my term comes to an end and offices are declared to be vacant. That should go to William Samoei Ruto, who is the deputy president, and that should go to Mzee Raila Odinga, who is, I do not know, because he is not declared, but he is himself on a campaign trail, whether he denies it or not. Kalonzo Musyoka is on a campaign trail. Musalia Mudavadi is on a campaign trail.
Don't forget Alfred Mutua.
Alfred Mutua is on a campaign trail. And what we must do is to tell these individuals, gentlemen, this country is bigger than you.
Barrack, let me ask you this. And you, okay, you're advising this man, right?
I'm about to start advising him.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So, I was speaking to a very senior politician last weekend, right?
Yes.
And that politician told me, you know what? This man, William Samoei Ruto,
yes,
only listens to William Samoei Ruto.
I don't know.
How do you advise him, Barrack? How do you advise him, given what PLO just said?
I said I'm about to start advising him, and you said at the start of this show that the taste of the pudding
is in the tasting.
Is in the eating.
Oh,
in the eating.
Yeah,
Barrack is right. And let me say that on this matter,
let him finish.
on this matter,
yeah.
I'll pray and fast for Barrack.
You won't eat any pudding?
No, I'll not eat puddings.
That is good. That's why you have friends such as PLO.
Yeah.
But he has gone into certain spaces that are very interesting about President Uhuru Kenyatta needing to call the country to order. And if you are to carry the country to order or an institution to order, you must begin by yourself calling yourself to order. Because if you do not call yourself to order, you preach water and you drink wine, and nobody is going to listen to you. We have seen President Uhuru Kenyatta also barnstorming the country in a manner that confounds. In fact, I struggle to understand why President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta sometimes barnstorms the country in a manner that suggests that he is himself on a campaign mission.
But he's the president, Barrack.
Do you speak for him?
No.
You don't speak for him?
No.
Okay. So in that case, and if I may continue, as I was saying before I was interrupted, when you look at Article 240 of the Constitution of Kenya, it says that there is established a National Security Council. The council consists of the president, the deputy president, the cabinet secretary responsible for defense, the cabinet secretary responsible for foreign affairs, and a couple of others there. These people must sit under the chairmanship of the president to review the state of security in the country. And in point of fact, once every year they must report to Parliament, and to report to Parliament about the state of national security in the country. They must be able to sit, put their heads together to understand and review the reports that have been given to them and give us a sense of direction on where the country is.
Are you saying they've never met or they haven't met in a while? Or what are you saying?
From what we gather, they don't sit. And that is why today you are finding that it is the head of the public service, Joseph Kinyua, who I do not know where he derives the authority to make certain declarations about how political affairs and gatherings in the country are going to take place. And you know, we are missing the point. We are missing the point because we trivialize these issues by personalizing them and pointing at certain individuals and saying that they are about them. We are setting and establishing precedents. In fact, when I hear about something called the BBI, and I see Mzee Raila Odinga every so often talking about the national executive in the imagery of a cake, which must be expanded so that it is shared out and parceled out to 5 individuals to eat, I start wondering the levels of divisiveness that wait for us. If you have a president who is a Siamese twin with a deputy, and the two, and I'm not apportioning blame here to either side. They are not able to sit together and function in the executive. How far worse off is it going to be when we have a collegiate of 5? There are serious constitutional issues that we need to debate, we need to reflect about, irrespective of the individual personalities who are concerned.
Okay, Barrack, what if, let's say, a NEC is called next week? Next week.
I think it would be a good thing.
You think so?
I think so.
What would you advise your principal to do?
I would cross that bridge when I got to it, because there would be an agenda that would be given. You don't just call a NEC in a void. A NEC, and I have been in those spaces, must specify the business for which the NEC has been summoned, and on the basis of that, we would put our minds together, we would reflect on the agenda,
what about
and advise.
What about what Raphael Tuju is talking about, Deputy President failing to show up at that important COVID conference? He didn't show up, they want his expulsion. What would you say?
Well, they take action.
Dr. PLO Lumumba, Parliament, dissolve or not to dissolve?
A number of things. I think there is a sense in which we must understand what Chief Justice Maraga did. The Constitution does enjoin the National Assembly to enact legislation to deal with the 2/3 gender rule. The truth is that the National Assembly, as presently constituted, has tried to do so several times without success. The truth is that there have been several petitions before the Chief Justice. But as my good friend Professor Makau Wamutua said, and I agreed with him, Chief Justice Maraga is a good judge and a bad politician. So that if you look at what is said in terms of presenting that 15-page document to the President of the Republic of Kenya to dissolve Parliament, if you interpret the Constitution in a mechanistic and pedantic manner, you can't fault him. But you don't interpret the Constitution in a vacuum. Let me, if you grant me latitude, Article 97 of the Constitution tells you the composition of Parliament. 290 geographically based constituencies. 47 representatives from the 47 counties. 12 nominated members of Parliament representing the youth and representing persons with disability and marginalized communities. That is Article 97. Article 98 tells you about the composition of the Senate. It tells you that you'll have 47 senators who shall be drawn from the 47 counties. You shall have 16 nominated women. You shall have 2 nominated persons, man and woman, representing youth. You shall have 2 nominated senators representing persons with disability, which means that the size of Parliament is established by the Constitution. If we were to swallow the prescription of Chief Justice Maraga, whom I respect, lock, stock and barrel, you would go into an election within 90 days. That election will possibly produce a house which in itself is still, given our patriarchal society, weighed heavily in favor of men. You would not have solved the problem. What then do you need to do? Is to deal with the architecture and the provisions of the Constitution. You've got to amend the Constitution. And we said this very early on. When on the 26th day of February, the year 2014, Parliament, in its wisdom, set up a working committee and instructed the then Auditor General of the Republic of Kenya, Edward Ouko, to undertake a socio-economic audit of the Constitution, which was done in the year 2016, and that is in the public domain. And what Ouko then said, that in order to solve the gender problem, we've got to go into a mixed member proportional representation. And if you look at the prescription of the committee of experts, you go down to the Bomas of Kenya, we made that particular prescription. Of course, the politicians messed up the harmonized draft at Naivasha, and we now find ourselves with an architecture of the Constitution that does not allow that to be implemented. So, in a nutshell, what I'm saying, that technically, mechanistically, Maraga is right. But that is what I call judicial sentimentalism. And I want you to read paragraph 26 of Maraga's report to the President of the Republic of Kenya. This is what he says, and I quote almost verbatim, that you cannot have gain without pain. Kenya must allow this to happen so that we must gain. But what he forgets is that once you dissolve parliament now, then you have no body to allot money to all organs, including the judiciary. That is what, if you allow me a little drama, is called Samson, destroy yourself and the Philistine syndrome. You destroy yourself, you destroy the judiciary, you destroy all organs without looking at this. And many people have spoken to this. Individuals whom I respect, if you permit me to conclude. And I agree with them. Makawa Mutua gets it right. Devin D gets it right. They get it right in recognizing the fact that, Maraga, you are right. You are right if you are giving an opinion to a moot court at the university, but you are dealing with Kenya, where they are live human beings. Therefore, what we would have expected is for a prescription that allows that certain amendments to the Constitution be undertaken. And he mentioned the BBI. And allow me a little latitude, Jeff.
You've had a lot of latitude.
How many latitude?
Professor, you've had a lot of latitude.
Allow me a lot of latitude.
I'm about to look up latitude in the dictionary.
Allow me a little latitude. What is the BBI? The BBI has been characterized in two ways. There are those who believe that the BBI is a Trojan horse, which is being used by Mzee Raila Odinga in order to become the President of the Republic of Kenya. I do not know, and I do not care. There are those who believe that the BBI is a pacifier that allows President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta to serve his legacy and to fulfill his big four agenda items. I do not care. But what I know, that in the context of where we are now, there is a merit in re-examining the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya in order to purge some of the things which I call heresies, which are to be found there. And what are they? One, you want to look at the representation of women. And I think because of historical reasons, we ought to ensure that the women folk are represented in elective and appointive positions.
Okay, let me ask Barrack. Let me go to Barrack before he says you have too much latitude, Prof. Barrack, Prof was referring to, if I could understand what he said in English.
Yes.
Maraga is simply burning the whole house down.
To kill a rat?
It's not killing a rat. I think we have got some very serious constitutional issues here. And I'm not a lawyer. I also know that quite often lawyers are liars. And sometimes it's very difficult to draw a clear demarcation line between the two roles, whether they are lawyering or they are lying. And very often I think it is more of the latter. Of all these lawyers who have lawyered on different sides of this discourse, I do not know which ones of them have been lying and which ones of them have been properly lawyering. But my informed opinion as a layman is that there is the Constitution which says what processes shall be followed and what the Attorney General shall, what the Chief Justice shall advise the President. And I saw that we argued on the word shall. And my younger sister, I saw, wrote about it in some of those platforms and said that shall was a modal verb which in certain cases can be epistemic and in other cases can be deontic. When we talk about deontic, it means that it's talking about a duty, about a certain responsibility, which the Chief Justice has undertaken. And for me, for a start, I think that the challenge is resident in the transitional clauses of the Constitution of Kenya of 2010, that where it says that and the President shall dissolve Parliament, we ought to have thought about legislating an act of Parliament that would then give us the process that the President would follow in dissolving Parliament. That he doesn't just wake up one morning and say that I've been advised by the Chief Justice and therefore I shall dissolve Parliament. And that lacuna being there in law, I think it remains to the good discretion of the President to reflect about how he would then go about dissolving Parliament, because it is important that he also must be seen to uphold the Constitution that he has sworn to protect. And together with the council of wise men and women who sit around him, they probably needed to have found a middle way where the President would say, yes, I have received this advisory from the CJ, and yes, when I look at the letter and the spirit of the law, he is right. And he would go on to then pose some of the questions that my good friend here has raised and which are valid. I agree with him that you could cause a very chaotic state of affairs. And so for me, he would then carry what is, in my view, meant to be a scarecrow clause within the Constitution to the next level, because I think that that particular article in the Constitution was meant to make Parliament alive to the fact that it could possibly be dissolved.
What is this scarecrow clause again? What's the scarecrow clause?
It says, and the President shall dissolve Parliament. Okay. It's 149.
Like a scarecrow in the field? Is that what it's...
Yes, indeed. And the President, in that case, could issue an executive notice to the two houses of Parliament through the speakers, choosing a futuristic timeline and saying that if by the 26th of March, for example, 2021, this enactment will not have been made to operationalize this article of the Constitution, Parliament shall stand dissolved. That way, he gives us an opportunity to remain constitutional while also obviating any unnecessary agonies such as the CJ anticipated, and probably Parliament would then move on and make the necessary amendment. I also don't know what is in the BBI, but unlike my brother here, I care, because it could be something more drastic than anything that we have seen in the Constitution.
Clearly, you're not for the five formation, the five...
I don't know what is there.
No, let's say, a powerful Prime Minister, a ceremonial President, two Deputy Prime Ministers, a Vice President. That's the five.
Perhaps I was giving myself some latitude. Let me, if you permit us, to talk about, in constitutional interpretation, this is what is said. A constitution must never be interpreted in a manner that brings about a practical absurdity. That is a canon of constitutional interpretation. And there is something that is called the silences of constitutional interpretation. And I've already said that if we were to swallow line, hook, and sinker what the Honorable the Chief Justice has said, it would lead to that. But let me go to the BBI. First of all, the BBI is something that has been released to us. Some of its contents, we have a cameo preview by way of piecemeal declaration of what it contains. Some of us hope that when the BBI comes, it will be drastic. Number one, that, and as I've said this before, it will reduce the counties. That would be drastic enough. Number two, that it will not create sinecure offices which are designed to enable political class to create ethnic alliances. I hope it will not do that. I hope that it's going to look into the area of representation, because I personally am very passionate. I was at the Bomas of Kenya, and we were very clear that the women folk must, in the nature of things, be represented in appointive and representative positions. And that is why at that time we said, don't increase the number of constituencies, retain them at 210, introduce mixed member proportion representation with a zebra approach, man, woman, man, woman, man, woman, and then you'll achieve it. And those are some of the things that I want to see. I want to see salaries commission scrapped, Commission of Revenue Allocation scrapped, Gender Commission merged with Human Rights Commission, and all these Cohesion Commission merged with Human Rights Commission. The Ombudsman, you create a mega Human Rights Commission with directorates. That is what I want to see. But as it is now, what we see is that the BBI, for whatever it's worth, is something that we are being given in painful doses by those who appear to know what it contains. And what is paradoxical and ironical at once, that those who are giving doses are saying, don't oppose it, but they are supporting what they do not know. But they are saying, don't oppose what you do not know. And that I find rather curious. So in a nutshell, without appearing to veer off, I'm saying that there is merit, and I want us to come back to a question that you asked, which I think is very important. What would happen if President Kenyatta were to summon his political party? Because President Kenyatta operates at two levels. Level number one, that is the leader of a political party, which is the governing party, which is the Jubilee coalition, which was a merger of several political parties. I would imagine that all his members would be present, so that they have a party position in that regard. I would also understand that President Kenyatta operates at another level as the President of the Republic of Kenya, with a deputy president who is Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and that when he convenes a meeting, which is his cabinet, his deputy will attend. And that is why I keep on reiterating that it is incumbent that he calls a meeting. It is the great American president Abraham Lincoln who had on his desk a statement say, the buck stops here. The buck stops here.
Truman.
When historians write, this is what they will say. It was during the presidency of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. William Samoei Ruto will disappear like snowball in hellfire. History will not remember that he was the deputy president. So it behooves Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta to draw the line in the sand, and I'm repeating myself. Raila Mzee Amolo Odinga and his handshake, historians will give it a footnote. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, step up to the plate.
I have to take a break, gentlemen. I have to take a break and come back and talk some more. This is deep. You know, I'm still stuck on sinecure, lacuna, paradoxical. I'm still stuck on that. It's a great conversation.
Indeed.
We have to have this conversation. As painful as it is, we have to have it. Like you said, Prof, it's for the country. Kenya is bigger than any one of us.
Indeed.
And I just came back from Rwanda recently. And you've been to Rwanda. You've seen. That was Kenya in the 70s. Let's take a break.
Sure.
Come back. There's plenty more ahead, folks. My goodness, are you tweeting? My phone's on fire. At Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya, the hashtag JKLive. JKLive, powered by Visa. We'll take a break. We'll be back. It's happening, I promise. Imekataya? Okay. All right. Powered by Visa. We'll be back in a moment.